Carol here. Welcome to my craft room. I am doing a vintage balloon happy birthday card, and I'm going to do the technique of a marbled graphite look on this vintaged out card. I'm going to use the birthday from this My Favorite Things birthday set and this happy from Stampin' Up die cutting, and we are going to do it on 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch cardstock, white 140 pound, that I get at my stationery store. It's beautifully thick and lovely to color on and work on. And you know I'm going to do all 4 sides of my card as I always do when I do my vintage cards. But wait till you see this graphite marble technique for any backgrounds. It's truly amazing, and it's using a product that we forget about using. And I picked it up at Michael's, and I think you're absolutely going to love it. And then after, I set it aside and I die cut these balloons that I'm using out of a piece of acetate. And this is going to be my stencil to use on top of stencils, because I want to get my balloons to have a different design in each balloon, and I also want them to be 3-dimensional. And I want to bring one balloon in front of the other and some balloons behind, so it looks realistic. And the best way to do that is through a homemade stencil out of acrylic, and I'll show you that after. So here I wanted to have, I use this Tim Holtz stencil, and it's called Gothic in design, and I'm moving on. I'm using my daubers, and what I do is I set my die cut over top of the balloon that I just stenciled, and you take your Copic multi-liner, whatever you have there, as a marker. And the reason why I did it in black you will see later on, but you want to draw a black line around the balloon so that it stands out. Now this balloon to the left is going to be it's going to look like it's moved forward, and the other balloons will be moved back. And you will see how I do that because you can see through the acrylic, right? So now I set that image down again, and I'm drawing it out in black. Now I really want it to be prominent. The reason for that line is because when I do the granite marbling technique, I want to be able to see that line. So now I'm lining up another stencil with the circles, and I can see right through my acetate here, the beautiful die cut acetate I made with the balloons. I place it down so that way when I draw the lines in, I know to only draw it right there behind the yellow. I don't go over top. And look at that, 3-dimension. And you're just using acetate if you have it on hand, and whatever die cut you want to use as an image. So now I'm using this one stencil to make it look like bark, and I did it in red. And then I'm going to put this stencil I made with the acetate right on top of the balloon that I colored in red, and I'm going to use my black marker, and this one is going to look really far back, and I know right where to start. And you didn't have to use any masking at all to get this effect. The only thing you needed was your die cut acetate that you did yourself. So there you have it. I have 4 balloons, and then I'm going to put a lilac one to the left there, and look at that. I go right over top of the balloon. I grab my stencil. This is such a pretty stencil. They're making beautiful stencils now, aren't they? And as you can see, I push away on the acetate when I get close to the balloon. Any other time I don't care, but as soon as I get close to that, that way I can make it look distant. I put my homemade stencil over top. I take my multi-liner and I go around, and look at that. No masking, having to cut out, intricate cutouts and put it over top. You just used your acetate to do the same effect. And now I'm going to draw it in very prominent so that when I put my stencil in, I know where to stop. And I'm going to add little bows, so I'm just adding some balloon type thingies on the bottom. I don't know what they are, but yeah. And I'm going around the outside here where I want the other balloons to look distant. Doing it like this with the acetate and making your own stencil eliminates any fussy cutting and having to mask these balloons out to get this 3-dimensional look. and I think that saves you time for sure, and it gives you a nice look. So here I'm just outlining the balloons for the marbling technique I'm going to use, and I really liked this. And I know my video is 31 minutes 8 seconds long, but I do all the sides of my cards. I do the insides, the back, and the front. So that is 4 different cards, really. Yeah, I'm making an excuse up for taking up so much of your time. When I do vintage cards anyway, I like to use all the sides of my cards. So here's the Molotow masking fluid I'm using over top because of doing the technique behind it with the stencils. So I am using the refill, the large bottle. This isn't the small pen size, this is the large one. And you want to mask off whatever you don't want to see, right? And in my case, I don't mind the little bit of black that is on the outside because the background is going to be with the stencil, the Gothic stencil. It's called Gothic, but it looks like that Baroque type style of imagery, and I really like that. So here I'm squeezing that Molotow masking fluid out there. I don't mind it thick. It doesn't affect my project whatsoever. When it's thick, it's just a time issue that you have to wait for it to dry. But I'm going to heat set this, and it works wonderfully. And this bottle is the application bottle, the refill bottle. And now I'm just showing you some of my stencils that are peel and stick. They have they're plastic, and they have that mild peel to them that it stays on your card, and I'm using the happy birthday on the back side. I'm using black, and you can see I've gone on to another day. Different nail polish, different sweater. Yes, it took me a while while I was working on this. And doesn't that look like brocade to you, the background? And that's why I bought this stencil. And it doesn't cover the full size of it, so you have to kind of be careful on the edge there. But I'm doing it with the black soot, and I'm trying not to hit the masking fluid. I mean, it's not going to matter, but I don't think it's quite dry. So I'm trying to be a little careful, and this is where the marbling effect is going to come in with the granite look. That nice flat granite, but yet the back of it is going to be somewhat indented, and it is going to have a marbled, shiny look to it. That's the only way I know how to explain it. And here I'm just tapping it with my paper towel, and then I don't want to touch it there, so I've got my hand over it, and I move the stencil over so that I could complete the little 1/4 inch of it on that side, and we are finished as far as we're concerned with that. Now, when you look at granite, like on your countertop, if you have a granite countertop or a marble countertop, it has this gold hue in the distance on there. You can just I don't know, it's very distant, but it does have this hue. So I took a sponge and my color box gold, and I am just tapping it in the background because you're going to get the shine. You don't want it to be clear white, and yet you want it to have a hue of gold in the background. Then I'm going to take the clean sponge, I'm going to go over it and push it into the cardstock. After I get this done, I'm going to use the clear tar gel by Golden. There's something in the chemical mix of this product that is fabulous for giving it a granite marbling look, more marble. The granite is more of the gold hue in this Baroque style stencil, but when you see the look of this after it dries, it's totally amazing. It does look like marble if you just want the marbling look, because the granite look is more like that gold rubbed into the white cardstock, and it is very appealing. I just love it. So I kept this in the edit because I wanted to show you how it raises itself up, that golden tar gel. It has such a beautiful look, and I'm testing it here on my hands to make sure it's thoroughly dry. I go over I give it another shot with the heat tool, and I'm drying the Molotow masking fluid as well. I do the back to ensure that it doesn't stick to the balloon stenciling, and isn't that gorgeous? It just has a look of its own, and I wanted to show you in case you wanted to get some of it. Now here the key to taking the Molotow masking off is this gum eraser, this square flat gum eraser. It does not leave a particle. It doesn't take up any of your cardstock with using this eraser. I haven't used anything else. I've tried other things to get it off. And then if you end up peeling it, make sure that you peel it towards you, not away from you, because you risk tearing up the pattern in the background. See how I'm trying to tear it towards me? And it is wonderful. Whatever I masked off, I had no problem with it sticking as long as it was dry. That's the key, this eraser, and making sure it's dry before you start pulling away. And look at that. It's all off and it's in the background. Now, I want these balloons to look like a marble granite look as well. So I take the color of the Tim Holtz inks and I go over it with my applicator, trying not to touch each balloon, but I want to leave the outsides a little white because that will push the color into the center. And by adding this texture paste, now to get this look, I added the Cosmic Shimmer paste and the tar paste together because it gives you the lift on the outside. Notice how I keep the shimmer paste to the outside, but I thin it out towards the inside. And I'll show you more as we get up there. I'm pushing away from the inside, pulling it out to the outside, so when I put the heat tool onto this, it is going to give it that raised effect and still look like a balloon. Now I want to use up the rest of my glossy accents. I've been trying to use it because I just used the beacon glue as glossy accent, so I'm trying to use the last of it, and I am pushing it with my finger. When I get it all in here, I push it out of the center. See how you can almost see here, I don't want the centers to be raised up. I want just the outside to have the same look as that Baroque type style stencil underneath there, the Tim Holtz Gothic stencil. Now I'm pressing in the center before it's dry. I move it down so that it's thinner in the center and it is more raised on the outside. I'm trying to show you that because then it blends into the whole effect of the actual granite marbling on there. Isn't it gorgeous? And really it will come together. You're probably thinking like I did, what does that Baroque style have to do with balloons? That's how my mind worked. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted the texture and look of granite marbling, and I wanted the balloons to look like they were actually embedded into the granite. That was my thinking anyway. So I'm going to cut the bottom portion off, just about a quarter of it right there, and I'm going to save that because, believe it or not, this is going to be a shaker card as well. And now I wanted to put you through the pain and suffering that I go through trying to pick out a background piece. Because if you work with vintage, you have to layer it up, right? So I thought I'm going to include this because I'm telling you, I go through so many card stock paper to see. I want the perfect background, and what's really funny is you're covering most of it. I just wanted maybe a 1/16 of an inch to show on it, but I wanted it to blend in. I did not want to stand out a lot. And when I put the golds on there, look at that. I grabbed this 6x6 vintage paper that I had, and there you have it. It's a Baroque looking style, yet I don't know, it's lighter and it blended in perfect. And look at how much you're only going to see. And then I take the Color Box Gold and I go over that whole thing as well. I want the gold to look, you'll be able to see it on the edges. I love this Fiskars smaller paper trimmer because it cuts razor sharp. I use my industrial Fiskars over on the desk behind me for larger projects, but I like this small one. And now my happy die, I think this is a Stampin' Up! Die from way back when, and I cut out all the colors that I'm using in the balloon with the happy so that when I layer all of this you can see the colors. And now this little die I think is from My Favorite Things. I can't be sure, I've had it forever. I love the little bow and the other little flower die. I'm going to cut those out, and here's the tape everybody asked me what I use. I get this at Walmart. You can get the 1/16 inch, the quarter inch, and the half inch for $1.19, I think it is, just over $1 a roll. You get tons of it. So I wanted to show you that, and now I'm using the double-sided tape to stick it down to my paper. I distressed the edges of that, and now I am applying the bows the same color on the same color balloon with my glue dots. And here's that double-sided tape I get from Walmart. And now that's the bottom. Okay, so now I'm lining it up because you want your designs to match, even though it's going to be pulled down on the cardstock. So I am just making sure it's all distressed around the edges and that I push it into the tape and I don't have any issues there. Here's the black cardstock. This is the Michaels cardstock, the 120 pounds. It is so thick. I just love it. If you can scoop that up, it's a great buy for $9.99. And now I'm measuring it so that I can make my card using my little Fiskars trimmer. I love this little thing. I haven't had a problem with it since I bought it. I haven't ever had a problem with Fiskars. And here I am just going to cut the other piece half an inch longer. I'm going to score it at the half-inch mark right there. And we have the card base ready to go. So you want to bend it in and put some tape. And then when I go to close it, I always start, I try to close it from the bottom, like hitting it on the desk so that you don't see the top part because it's going to be behind the tape. But if you do it like this, watch right there, pressing it down, because if it's not even on the top, you don't see it because of the half inch there. I take my Teflon folder, bone folder, press it in, and now I'm sure it's my favorite thing's birthday. I thought this vintage card would be nice to have a shaker with all the shaker elements hidden underneath the bottom portion there. So I like the font, the happy and the birthday being different. Then we're going to proceed with our Versamark, and we're going to emboss the birthday with Tim Holtz embossing powder. And I like the embossing powder by Tim Holtz because it has no shine and it's really granulated for that vintage look. I loved it, and I'm going to use all different colors. I'm going to stand up here and make sure this is nice and straight. Press it right in there with the Versamark ink, and we are now making the shaker. The shaker using the fuse tool. Now I have this piece of glass from my days of old, and if you're going to use the fuse tool, working on glass is wonderful. I saw this on a video and I was using a cutting mat, but no, use your glass and it's wonderful. I sealed it up with all these little sparkly elements I got at Michael's, and now I'm going to have them so that they are hidden when you press it down as much as possible on the bottom portion there. And it just turned out nice. I did not get the embossing in there with the Tim Holtz, but I'm going to show you the ones I used. Here's my little shaker component. That's just with a little plastic sheet that I had in a binder, and I cut it out and I fused the two ends, the top and the side. And for some reason this tape from Walmart works perfect with hiding behind acetate or plastic. You can't see it, and I'm shaking it all over to make sure it's stuck on there, and it sure was. So I'm using my roll of tape to put the bottom portion on there. And I have one little tidbit. If you're putting it onto plastic or acrylic, heat set your double-sided tape just for a second. It moistens the tape on the back of that roll that sometimes gets a lot of air and it's not so sticky. If you just heat set it and then put it on top of that, it will work. It'll stick wonderfully. I use the Tim Holtz powders because they're very granulated, and I actually used 5 colors. I grabbed a pink from another company and put it on the B and the I on there, and now I'm using my Versamark liquid embossing right there. It's embossing liquid, like I just said. And then I put it on a piece of cardstock. I ran it across the edge right there, added my detail gold embossing powder. Now I like to do it this way opposed to putting it on the Versamark pad because I get a thick and a thin layer, and it adds to the vintage look that I really like, and it bulks it up where you want it bulked up, and it doesn't give you a straight line. I don't want any straight lines when it comes to doing vintage cards. I like it to have that aged page look. I think what I'm trying to say there is not to have any uniformity to it, just to be all over the place. So now I found this variegated cardstock. It is a gold light green hue to it. I absolutely love it. I vintaged out the edges and put it inside the top and the bottom. I'm just measuring it here to have just a tiny bit inside the black cardstock. And yes, I am going to do all the sides of the black cardstock too. I just don't like anything plain when I do a vintage card. I don't mind leaving cardstock white if it's clean and simple, but vintage to me just seems to look good, running the theme all the way on the front, the back, the inside, the upside. Yes, so now I thought, okay, let's go back to the front. I'm snipping off the even parts of the bows there so that they looked a little uniform there. Didn't mind that. And I am going to put my shaker card right there. So here we go. I guess I put this back in there. I loved the glass, using the glass with your fuse. You have the measuring components on the glass. You have the ability to keep it firm on there. You only need to, I had it on the wrong side. I run it through twice. Works fabulous. Then I cut it off just outside the edge, and then I fill it with, what am I doing there? Yeah, oh, I'm looking for my scissors, I guess. And I cut it as close, because you're going to see that on the card on the sides. I fill it up with my Michael's confetti there. Love that. It's kind of like plastic confetti. And I'm so glad I found that glass plate, that slice. I had it years ago. And I found that the fuse just slides on the glass. Look at that, one time. All I had to do was one time. And it is sealed and ready to go. Now I liked that look just like that too, leaving it just open. But my first impression when I visualized this card was to have that piece covering the glitter. And so I went with that. So I put the happy on there, and now I am putting on the Walmart double-sided tape. And you know what? You can't even see this through the plastic or acetate. I love using this. Whatever they use to put what kind of glue it is, it works perfect on acetate and plastic. Look at that. And now I am going to make sure my pattern is aligned up right, because it's going down below. I don't want it upside down. And I don't know if I mentioned this, I think I did, but if you're putting paper onto plastic or acetate, heat your double-sided tape first. It releases the gumminess, and then when you put it down on your acetate or your plastic, see how I can easily adjust that, because it's been sitting in the air a bit. But if you take your heat tool, you heat it up, it releases that gummy paste that they use on the tape roll, and it goes on easy peasy and does not come up. So now I am using this, it is a border die, and I think that is my favorite things. And you know, when you buy so many supplies from different companies, it's hard to think of what they are, because I didn't put the name of it in when I packaged them up with my Avriel plastic sheets there. But anyway, it is a border die with the stitches in it, and I'm taking my Lindy Stamp Gang. This is bubblegum, and then I use a green with gold in the background, a gold hue, and I'm spraying it down and then dabbing it in so that I get a nice look of the Baroque on there. I removed the center so that you could see the variegated paper, and now I'm releasing my stick-it. That's what I die cut out of that tag die, was my stick-it. I wanted to have like a window look, a door window effect right there in the middle, just to break the Baroque look up there. And I love that the Lindy Stamp Gang sprays, because they have so many different colors in the actual mixture of it. It's hard to describe, but anyway, It looks nice on this variegated cardstock. Took my Copic multi-liner and went around the edges just to pop it off the center. And now I am taking these little flower dies. I thought I would leave this in to show you my thinking process on vintage. I lean towards vintage cards, and one thing I learned is if you go for the vintage look, you want to diffuse the color in some way, whether you use your white paints or whatever elements, just diffuse them a bit so they're not so bright. And now we're back to the front. Yes, I put the happy on there and I'm happy. Yeah, it's coming along. Okay, we're on the back. Yes. You get 4 cards for 4 looks for 1 card, right? 4 different techniques for 1 card, because I do every side of my cards. I know, crazy, but I do. I just really enjoy it. Here I took a Tim Holtz flower stencil die, and this is the Tim Holtz picket fence, the white picket fence, and I am holding it while I spray it with that gold green Lindy Stamp Gang spray after I use the picket fence paint. Rub it off, and looky, take a paper towel, and vintage, you don't have to worry about little spots everywhere. It looks like you put them there on purpose. Took my gold pen and I quickly drew in some stems, just nice and loose as a goose. You don't have to have them, and I am blotting my gold paints, my white paint, and just having some fun with the look of this vintage flower. I took my picket fence and my paintbrush. I'm going around the edges just loosely. You can see how I'm just scratching it on there, so it has a real loose vintage style. Whatever that is, it comes natural to me, so I'm going to call it vintage. Now I'm back to the inside. There's the outside all finished up, the back side. Where are you, Carol? Come on, make up your mind. So I put the hello die that I cut out there. I had this lying around, and here are my flowers. I decided to put them in the corners here, and I'm going to diffuse it with some gold and some white. Now these are little wee dots, like enamel dots, but they're not shiny, they're dull, and I really like that. Look at the little teensy ones. And you know, I find in vintage, this is my Memento Lux. I better jump in there, I'll forget what it was. I grabbed the stencil and slightly tipped it to have a little ghosting effect. And the reason why I like the Memento Lux white, it's not a true white, it is a cream white. And truly it is beautiful with the picket fence white. And I slowed it down just a little bit here. I'm putting on my Martha Stewart stencil, and they're sticky plastic, and you peel them off and wash them. It's wonderful. I grabbed my gold color box ink and I put happy birthday on the back, just so we don't forget it's a birthday card. Yeah. And trying to see it there, and look at that really loose feel to that flower die when you do it like this. I just think it's really pretty. That would make a nice card in itself. But you know me, I have an issue with keeping any of the cardstock free from design. Is that what I say? So here I'm putting the gold over top of the colors just to diffuse the color, and then I'm going to add some of the picket fence white onto it. And in the end, you'll see that. I'm grabbing my multi-medium glue, putting on the back of my happy. And I'm happy because we're getting down to the end. Thank you for joining me. And this is a long video. I apologize, but like I said, I do all 4 sides of my card. You have a shaker element on the front. You have the graphite marble technique in there with the embedded balloons. So it all looks like marble, like a countertop with the graphite look. And you have the little wee sparklies. And then you open it up and you're running with that Baroque look on the inside. I don't know where the flowers came from, but I wanted to use that stencil on the back. And now, uh-oh, that's only 3 sides. I have another side empty. Oh, I took my Cosmic Shimmer Paste. Wow, wow, wow. Wait till you see this. When you heat set this Cosmic Shimmer Paste, you get this antique white, beautiful creamy texture with gold flecks through it that will amaze you. Wait till I pick this up and show you. As always, my friends, thank you for joining me. Thank you for subscribing. I hit 3,000 subscribers. Yes, there's going to be a big prize. Look at that variegated paper. Have yourself a blessed week, everybody. Thank you for enduring the length of this video. I appreciate you all. Have a blessed week. Bye now.